We begin this story with several system windows informing citizens about a series of anomalous events unfolding around the world. A giant abalone was reportedly found by fishermen on the coast, so enormous that even 10 people couldn't encircle it, suspected to be a mutation caused by nuclear wastewater. There was also word of an ancient tree in a tourist area growing wildly, sending roots for kilometers, and cracks opening in the ground due to a possible abnormal earth pulse. The notifications continued. Giant vines were falling from the sky, making fairy tales feel real, and subway tracks had been destroyed in multiple places, resulting in some casualties. No one paid attention, assuming it was nothing more than clickbait headlines, no different from the false alarm about the zombie bite years ago. Many students gathered in front of the school, forming a circle and deciding that local rumors were far more interesting than the news. Suddenly, their attention shifted completely to the figure approaching. It was the school beauty, Chu Qing-li, nicknamed the Goddess Lily. Immediately, the crowd wondered if she was finally about to break up with her boyfriend. According to them, the relationship was nothing more than charity on her part. Chu Qing-li had already been accepted into Qingcheng University, while her boyfriend hadn't even managed to get into a decent university. Because of this, their futures were on completely different levels. Chu Qing-li approached Fang Yi and called out to him. Fang Yi turned around, mildly curious. Wearing a cold expression, she said she'd thought it over and that their relationship wasn't realistic. School-time love always comes to the point where you wake up one day and realize you're not meant for each other. A life together, she added, requires not only courage but also compatibility too. For all these reasons, it was best to end things. With disdain, she assumed that no matter how he tried to win her back, it would be impossible. Fang Yi remained silent, and, noticing this, people assumed his lack of reaction meant he was so shocked he'd gone blank or lost his mind like a loser. After all, his now ex-girlfriend was the beauty of the school. They expected him to be on his knees, begging for another chance. However, upon observing him, they simply concluded that he was no match for a rich and beautiful girl, a toad coveting a swan. With a calm gaze, Fang Yi agreed to break up with her, leaving Chu Qing-li and the others in shock. Seeing she had nothing more to say, our boy turned his back and decided to leave. She panicked and called out to him. With a piercing gaze, Fang Yi turned and asked what she wanted. Her eyes flashed with rage as she made it clear she didn't care what he was thinking or what tricks he might use. She wasn't going back with him, and she wanted that to be completely clear. Fang Yi stared at her and told her not to flatter herself, calling her the school beauty and that right now, he was too busy for her. At that insult, her eyes widened in surprise, and she blushed. The others were equally shocked by Fang Yi's attitude. He knew that Chu Qing-li and the rest had no idea what was about to happen. Society's current rules, money, education, status, would soon turn to ashes. They didn't know he had returned from a future disaster, a man reborn in this timeline. Because of that, the Chu Qing-li before him was simply a distant stranger from another life. Fang Yi left the school. He had more important matters to attend to. For him, school beauties and reputation were irrelevant, since everything was about to be completely reconfigured. The real crisis was one looming over all humanity on Blue Star. It had all begun the night before, when Fang Yi woke up and strange cracks revealed the future to him. A red moon, cargo ships being destroyed in the sea, lightning striking cities around the world, massive monsters looking to eat humans as a snack. Then the system informed him that an aura recovery had been detected. Its full activation would occur in 364 days, 11 hours, and 59 minutes, and once that happened, the world would undergo an unprecedented transformation. Fang Yi was confused. Several figures appeared before him, and the system revealed that society's rules would be rewritten. The era of cultivators was about to arrive, and power would become the new standard. Our boy grew curious, extended his hand, and asked who it was. Then a strange light appeared in front of him. A system window stated that it came from the ends of the universe and used top-tier algorithms integrated with cosmic secrets. Its function was to automatically generate cultivation techniques based on spiritual materials touched by the host, with current techniques at zero. Fang Yi reached out, and his eyes widened as his fingers passed through the system window. Then a powerful monster emerged and began to roar. Fang Yi froze, his eyes filling with fear. Inside the monster's mouth was a corpse, and the system revealed that this was his end as an ordinary person, as well as the fate of billions on Blue Star. Fang Yi swallowed hard and couldn't help feeling afraid. He pressed a hand to his chest, worry clouding his eyes. He began to ponder and remembered his past life. He had been just an average person swept along by the tide of events, struggling only to survive with the hope of overcoming the disaster. He witnessed the fall of his nation and the suffering of the people, and, in the end, he could not escape the mutated beasts. He remembered dying in despair, full of rage, with a deep desire for revenge. His eyes began to shine with determination, as he thought that perhaps this was why he had been chosen by the system and brought back 1 year before the recovery of Aura. Back in the present, he extended his hand again, knowing that, at this moment, most people had no idea about the change that was coming. Fang Yi touched the system fragments and decided he would use each anomaly caused by the aura to his advantage. The system began initializing a new evaluation. Our boy's eyes shone as it informed him that the link had succeeded. A new path had been unlocked, and now everything in existence could be used as material. His mission was to collect powerful techniques and abilities, become a strong cultivator, and save the world. In the city, people were informed through the news monitor that humanity now faced an unprecedented crisis. Answers could not be found in the past. The only option was to adapt with their own strength. Everyone was surprised, except Fang Yi. When he turned on his phone, he saw several notifications. He understood that the government neither confirmed nor denied the strange phenomena, limiting itself to telling people to prepare. Looking at his phone with scenes around the world and a warning sign, he knew this was Sha Nation's subtle way of issuing a warning, since reports once dismissed as mythical nonsense would never have gone viral otherwise. His eyes filled with sadness as he remembered the past. He knew that this indirect and silent approach by Sha Nation helped citizens remain calm and trust their country. It was a hard and slow method, but much more effective than the chaos and gunfire of neighboring nations. Then he remembered that the system had told him he could use anything, which meant he should go wherever anomalies occurred. His attention was fixed on his phone. The #1 trending news said the UV index at Ching-Cheng University had reached a historic record of the century. Because of this, a heat warning had been issued, urging new students to take safety precautions and use sunscreen. Students were confused, thinking that even the best universities now resorted to sensationalist advertising. They considered it false, definitely a paid topic to be trending, since heat of that magnitude could kill people. Fang Yi looked up at the sky and saw it was full of clouds. Then he activated the UV meter and saw that it read 0. He was confused, not understanding how the weather could be so different, since Ching-Cheng University was only 15 minutes away by car. Images of a blazing sun above the university were published, and students were informed that new student registration would continue, but they should avoid the north gate due to the high UV index, as all other entrances remained open. Fang Yi couldn't help smiling. He knew that when anomalies first appeared, most people thought they were publicity stunts, and only he knew the truth. Joy sparked in his eyes as his first opportunity arrived. Fang Yi changed clothes and went to Ching-Cheng University. Everyone carried umbrellas. It was so hot that the leaves of the trees had fallen. Our boy went to the north gate of Ching-Cheng University, the least crowded of all. He knew something was definitely wrong there. Shimmering ash began to drift down from the sky. While students fled to avoid being scorched to death, Fang Yi fixed his attention on it. He sat down and decided to touch it. As soon as his finger made contact, an intense glow flared, and the system reported that it had detected a powerful fluctuation in the yang attribute, unlocking its data template. The energy poured into Fang Yi's body, causing terrible pain. An intense light burst from our boy's body. People shielded their eyes to keep from going blind. They didn't know what was happening and thought they were hallucinating. The energy began burning Fang Yi's clothes, making him clench his teeth tightly. He pressed his hands to his head and felt himself going crazy, unsure whether the system had finished compiling. He felt like he was about to die. The compilation completed, and Fang Yi acquired a yang attribute technique, the golden sun breathing technique. Later, it's the day for new students to register at Qingcheng University, and the campus is buzzing. Our main character's ex-girlfriend arrives at the registration area, composed yet clearly drawing attention. A guy immediately offers to carry her suitcase for her. Soon, more guys drift over to try to get her attention, but she turns them all down, calmly telling them she doesn't need any help. She then looks over at a couple nearby with a sneer, jealous of how lovey-dovey they are with each other, but then a bright golden light flashes, startling her and the other students. A voice over the loudspeaker orders everyone to stay away from the north gate, warning all students not to approach the area. The girl's expression hardens, and she decides to go see what is happening after seeing all these strange things. At the north gate, a huge burst of golden energy lights up the area, washing over the ground and walls. A dark figure steps out from the smoke, radiating a powerful, oppressive aura. He takes a slow, deep breath, and his eyes blaze with a strong golden glow. A translucent screen pops up in front of him, stating that he has created a new technique and earned 50 points. The guy studies the screen, wondering what the points are for. Deciding it isn't important right now, he notes that it will probably be useful later. Time passes, and night falls, with a strange-looking moon hanging in the sky like a silent omen. The young man begins practicing his new breathing technique with steady focus. The next day, a bright sun hangs high, and a new, unfamiliar energy spreads through the university grounds. Some students notice the sky dim and cool for a second as they rush toward the north gate, drawn by curiosity. A large crowd quickly gathers to see what is going on. The university's dean arrives with a team of security guards behind him, angry, and demands to know why no one listened to the warning to stay away. The group pushes forward through the mass of people. The crowd shifts aside for them as they move toward the center of it all. A hooded person with a serious look tells the dean to block off the north gate completely. At that exact moment, a system notification tells Fang Yi that he has cleaned a polluted area. He learns that the government already knows about these zones and wonders if there are other people like him out there. Hearing another alert about the area being strictly off limits, the young man understands that things have become truly serious. Students spot people in uniform and whisper, wondering if they are from the army. From a rooftop, Fang Yi sees the commotion spreading across campus as the disturbance draws heavy attention. With his red eyes glowing, he decides it's time to leave and leaps off the building without hesitation. Down below, the mysterious hooded person walks across ground cracked by the residual energy. The figure studies the scene carefully, every step deliberate. The hooded person kneels and touches the ground to feel for lingering traces of power. Then she picks up a fragment of the shattered surface to examine it more closely, trying to understand what happened here. The hooded figure studies the piece and realizes that a single person caused this surge of energy. Just then, officials begin moving students out while the person in the hood watches from a distance. In the crowd, the guy's ex-girlfriend is stunned to hear that only one person did all of this. At that moment, she spots a figure jumping away and wonders if it could be her ex, but she quickly pushes the thought aside. With his grades, he could never have gotten into this school. Far away at Fang Yi's house, the sun goes down again and night settles over the quiet neighborhood. Lying on his bed, the young man complains that his body is still hot, even after a cold shower and blasting cold air from the air conditioner. Because of the heat, he worries he won't be able to sleep. He also worries that, because of what happened today, someone might have noticed him. He picks up his phone and sees a trending news story about a cultivation association. He remembers that everyone used to think it was just an online joke. Then he recalls the hooded people at the university and thinks they must be from the association. Curious, he taps the headline and opens the article to read the full report. It explains the different cultivation levels, ranging from the first realm being the ghost axe, which keeps going up all the way to the ultimate realm called total transcendence. In the comments, people dismiss it as a prank, but he wonders whether the announcement is real. Fang Yi thinks about how he never knew any of this in his past life as a normal person. As a normal person, he couldn't have access to this kind of info. After disasters completely changed his life, he had no time or energy to care. Surviving took everything he had. Sitting on his bed, he thinks about the Cultivation Association and decides to try his technique again. He closes his eyes, focuses his breath, and starts his training. In that instant, sweat beads on his skin as a strong golden energy swirls around him. He begins to float in his room, surrounded by a brilliant golden glow. A steady light shines on him. The first step is to strengthen his physical body into a weapon so it can hold the aura of heaven and earth. He steadily controls the energy and shapes it into a divine axe. His eyes glow brightly, and he smiles, feeling full of power. The system informs him that he has reached the Do Shuai realm and grants him 50 more points. He remembers the points from before and reads as the screen declares that a new path is now open. The system explains that the points can be used to put the compiled data into any object. He considers the idea of placing power into an object and looks at his mug on the table. Extending his hand toward the mug, a golden glow gathers at his palm. The system asks if he wants to use 1 point to put the yang attribute on the mug. He realizes this functions like enchanting an item to give it a special property. The young man thinks that if he did this to a weapon like a gun or a knife, it would become his own special tool for fighting. He decides that having a powered-up weapon will be very important for what is to come. He then finds a small sword on his shelf and decides to try the power on it as a test. If the experiment works, he plans to buy a real weapon to be ready for the mutated monsters he expects. Suddenly, a strange noise from outside the building grabs his attention in the middle of the night. Outside, a dark creature with huge claws watches Fang Yi's apartment from the shadows. With glowing red eyes, the strange creature bares its sharp teeth in the darkness. It looks like a giant demonic rabbit and crouches, ready to attack the building. Here comes the Easter rabbit. But inside the apartment, Fang Yi has no idea that danger is coming, no hint at all of the threat creeping closer. Lying in bed, he feels uncomfortable from his new cultivation technique, the heat prickling under his skin. With his red eyes, he wonders where the sound, something like a rat, came from. He thinks the noise isn't from inside or from the pipes, and that it might just be a neighbor's pet. Walking through the living room, he reminds himself that with his sharper hearing, which was thanks to the ghost axe realm, it's normal to pick up the neighbor's sounds. Then he focuses his hearing, listening more carefully to the strange noise, but he quickly realizes something is wrong and snaps to full alert. Fang Yi goes to the door and comes face to face with the scary creature right there in the dark hallway. In the hallway, the strange creature with red eyes appears and glares at him, ready to attack. He's startled and instantly recognizes the mutated beast. It was a rabbit that's been mutated by the anomaly, something burned into his memory. A memory from his past life was a blur, but seeing the creature in front of him, a chill was sent down his spine. At the same time, a drone sweeps over the city at night, proof that others already know about the danger. On top of a building, a girl complains, almost bored, that they still haven't caught the rabbit that ate the night spirit fruit as the rabbit's speed was just too insane. With a lollipop in her mouth, the young woman looks calm and confident about the mission. She orders her team to keep sending her updates about the target she's hunting. After that, the mysterious girl steps off the rooftop and jumps, beginning the chase. Falling fast, she moves with effortless ease between the huge city buildings. Suddenly, the young woman senses the mutated beast's power and realizes she's getting closer to it. With her eyes glowing, she finally locates the creature and gets ready for a fight, rolling her shoulders once to settle her stance. The mysterious hunter lands hard on a rooftop, moving with amazing skill. Running down the sheer side of a building, she receives the order to chase the target no matter what, no delays, no excuses in order to save the people in the area of the target. With a perfect landing, the young woman continues her pursuit without stopping. Leaping from building to building, she warns that the creature ate the spirit fruit not long ago, so its mutation and evolution wasn't complete yet, making it so that there was a high chance that it would evolve into something more deadlier. Just then, a man working late sees something streak past his window and stares, confused. He thinks he's seeing things, but his boss yells at him for standing around. Meanwhile, the hunter stands like a shadow in front of the moon on the 65th floor. Back in the apartment, Fang Yi faces the strange creature, which screams at him. With his golden eyes, he knows his body has changed, and now he can fight it fairly. The creature slashes with its claws, but the young man dodges with astonishing speed. Fang Yi thinks his body has really changed, and now he can see the attacks in slow motion. With sun energy gathering in his hand, he wonders why a mutated beast is here so soon. He remembers fragments from his past life and squares up to face the monster, breath steady, focus razor sharp. The guy knows the creature hasn't fully evolved yet, and the night makes it stronger and angrier, so he rushes forward to attack because he has to stop it or everyone in the building will die. Fang Yi manages to grab the creature with his hand full of energy, fingers locking like iron around its hide. With shocking strength, he grabs the strange creature without any fear. He holds the monster tight and his golden eyes shine with a cold, focused look. Then the young man whips the creature through the air and realizes its tail is the weak spot. Seizing his chance, he clamps down on the beast's tail with all his strength. Fang Yi hurls the monster against the window, and the glass shatters from the force. With his fist glowing gold, he braces to land a powerful punch. The guy fires a beam of energy that slams into the creature mid-air. The monster is completely wrapped in the bright golden beam of light, but the strange creature hooks the golden energy with its claws and tries to rip its power away. Fang Yi realizes the monster is trying to steal his yang power, and he fights back hard. He thinks the power of the sun is too strong, and that the rabbit is only destroying itself. Moments later, a golden explosion engulfs the monster, which can't handle that much energy. In the building next door, a couple wakes from the noise, and the man wonders if it was thunder. He goes to the window to check but spots nothing unusual outside. Our hero drops to the floor, surrounded by the fading remnants of his golden energy. The young man thinks the creature was like a starving ghost, trying to devour his power. After the fight, the monster's eye thumps to the floor and leaks a weird black goo. With a serious look, he stares at what's left of the creature he just defeated. Without thinking twice, the guy stomps hard on the eye, crushing the last of the beast. He understands that the creature of the night was desperate for his opposite, yang-type power, drawn like a moth to a blazing flame. The beast mutations have already begun. The young man thinks that if he were normal, the monster would have easily eaten everyone in the building. With that in mind, he knows he needs to learn more techniques to face the dangers ahead. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl arcs through the air in the moonlight, unmistakably a hunter on the move. After doing a superhero landing, she reaches the scene. The mysterious hunter's eyes go wide with shock. Standing there in the middle of the night, she wonders if someone else has already defeated her target. Kneeling on the ground, she notes that the target has been destroyed and that she'll try to recover the night attribute. But as she touches the monster's remains, she's hit by a golden energy that still lingers there. The young woman feels a fierce heat, an intense, scorching aura, and jerks her hand back at once. She remembers the very same energy from the university gate and understands this isn't a coincidence. After this discovery, the girl clicks on her communicator, her expression serious and determined. She informs her base that the rabbit was taken out by a powerful new forerunner with a special ability, one that feels unusual and dangerous. A voice on her communicator asks if the same person cleaned the gate and killed the rabbit, someone who was only at the Ghost Axe realm but still has the attribute which is extremely pure. The man then confirms they have no information on this person in their database and says the association must recruit him. The silver-haired girl agrees with the plan. She then carefully coaxes the small flame of energy into a container on her clothes. Her boss tells her to stop her other missions and focus on finding the new forerunner. At that, the mysterious hunter calmly unwraps the lollipop she's been holding. The young woman pops the candy into her mouth and says she understands the new order perfectly, crystal clear. But before she starts the mission, she says she needs to get some milk tea to relax. The hunter wonders who this mysterious person with so much power could be. The young woman agrees that the president was right and that she needs to meet this powerful master. Fang Yi's day starts with the sunrise. He stretches, ready to train. He knows waking up early is good for his power, so he prepares for another session. The fighter uses his breathing method, drawing in the morning's golden energy, feeling it on his body. As the energy fills him, his eyes glow with golden power. After stepping into the ghost axe realm, he can feel the aura of the technique manifesting when he uses the golden sun breathing technique, like threads circling the divine axe. A sudden burst of energy surprises him. Another breakthrough had happened within seconds. He realizes he's getting stronger again. Power flows through his body, and he focuses to control it. He makes a tight fist, feeling the energy gather in his hand. He summons his key axe, swings it around, and notices the weapon feels much lighter compared to yesterday. He grips the handle firmly, ready to try out his new strength. The warrior lifts the golden axe over his head, preparing a powerful strike. He reaches the 2-star ghost axe realm, releasing his strength. His eyes now burn with golden flames, showing his new power. Fang Yi's body feels much stronger and tougher after this change. He grew stronger so fast because he used the extra energy from his last power-up. Fang Yi decides that from now on, he will level up slowly and carefully, one step at a time. But his growing power draws a lot of attention, so he needs a more private place as he just received his new toy. In the association's office, a man holding his cell phone feels something strange in the air. He notices a shift in the sun's energy and wonders if it's the new guy again. Fang Yi finds a quiet spot by a river to continue his plans. A system screen appears, and he confirms he will add a special quality to his weapon by using the code points he received previously. He remembers trying this with another item, a toy prop, but it couldn't handle the power of the Yang attribute. This time, the new blade resonates with his energy, forming a strong connection. A system message confirms the item encoding worked. Excited by his new weapon, he gets ready to test its power right away and swings it a couple of times. The test result shocks him. The sword unleashes incredible force, as though it was the sun itself. A huge golden beam of light shoots from the blade into the sky. The warrior lands with his sword wreathed in flames, feeling the power flow through him. He almost starts a fire with that swing and sees how dangerous his strength is. The smoke from the attack is thick, so he knows he's been seen and needs to leave. A girl is already sprinting toward the column of smoke he left behind. She complains that she stepped away for a moment to redeem a coupon and buy milk tea, and missed everything. Suddenly, the young woman stops. She sees the river is actually boiling, making her think that this place was a hot spring. The agent flies over the damaged area, wondering what the new guy did to this place. She can already imagine being told off, since everything has gone wrong since he appeared. Now she was going to be scolded by the cleanup department again. Just then, a golden flash in the distance catches her eye, and her curiosity spikes. The hunter is shocked by what she senses. This shouldn't be possible. His power level jumped from 1 star to 2 stars overnight, and he even forged a spirit weapon. Spirit weapons, as the name implies, are weapons infused with attributes, giving normal weapons extraordinary power. Spirit weapons were extremely rare. Even the association only has 2 of those weapons, and the method to create them isn't fully known. The girl grows suspicious, wondering how he gained this kind of power by himself. But she thinks she must be wrong and decides to start cleaning up the mess he made by cooling down the stream first. Far away, Fang Yi thinks about how his weapon now has the Yang attribute, but the system didn't say that his weapon could only contain 1 attribute. After all, the system can encode many different techniques, which made him think to add more qualities to the blade. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. He has a message from someone he doesn't know. He completely forgot about keeping things private. And now, a stranger is inviting him to a pioneers group, a group of people who have been sticking together since the anomalies started. He's shocked to learn that official members were only at the Ghost Axe realm level. The stranger mentions a new pollution zone and invites him to a group hunt. He asks for the location, and the stranger sends a file about the Dark River Molten Dragon. Opening the file, it shows that the pollution zone was originally a dark river formed from tectonic fissures. Due to the world mutation, the water turned into molten lava, making the area extremely hot. Seeing that the place has the same attribute as his Yang type, Fang Yi decides to accept the invitation. Far away in the Binmu district, a group is waiting for old Li's friend to arrive. One member says the girl's map was so good he got there easily. The blonde girl thanks everyone for coming and tells them they need to work together. She's from the Cultivation Association and is disappointed that the pioneers here aren't very strong. What many don't know is that the Cultivation Association is a government group. Getting into the group was hard and required her family to ask for favors, so she hates to fail. Just then, one of the explorers sees the newbie arriving and calls him by his name, Fang. Fang Yi makes a strong entrance with his new sword and introduces himself to the group. The agent is startled by his power, but she senses that his aura isn't scary, just warm. Since the team is all here, the leader gives the signal and they head toward the cave entrance. Fang Yi decides to go first and asks the blonde agent to take care of the light. The group walks through the cave, and one of them warns Fang about the loose rocks. They think it's strange that the place isn't very hot yet. Fang Yi reflects on how quickly the team accepted him and feels their friendship is real in these hard times. Fang Yi keeps moving forward, and the ground under his feet starts to change color, showing that danger is near. Suddenly, they reach a huge opening and are amazed to see a river of boiling lava right in front of them. Without hesitating, Fang rushes toward the danger, and the blonde agent yells at him not to be so reckless. To everyone's surprise, Fang Yi punches the lava, placing his hand deep within it. The explorers panic and scream for help over seeing his crazy action. A fiery explosion hurls the team back, and Fang Yi's system detects a world anomaly called Inner Flame and starts to analyze the information. Fang Yi's system analyzed the anomaly, revealing a new power, the Inner Flame, with an extremely high internal temperature and explosive properties, and the Scarlet Flame sword technique, which must be used with a drawn blade to unleash its true power. Each slash causes flames to roar, coating the blade with blazing fire and summoning lightning. When the sword gathers flames and is ignited by battle intent, it unleashes immense energy. Resolved, Fang Yi gripped his sword. He steadied his breath, calm and collected. His eyes in the blade glowed with fiery power, using the points to embed the internal flame attribute into the Tang sword, a perfect technique for it. It fit like it was made for him. Below, the other explorers, thrown back by a previous explosion, watched in amazement as Fang Yi stood unharmed in a vortex of fire, realizing his weapon was absorbing the lava's power. The realization stunned them, if only for a heartbeat. When the flames subsided, his teammates concluded he had suffered a small cultivation accident and had recovered. Relief washed over the group. The group was euphoric, noticing the cave's spiritual energy had stabilized. The air itself felt balanced. One of them celebrated being able to absorb it smoothly, while another, on the verge of beginning his cultivation path, excitedly shouted Xiao Ya's name. The blonde agent, Xiao Ya, encouraged them to train while she kept watch, and the team thanked her for the opportunity. The peace was interrupted when Xiao Ya detected other people approaching the entrance, warning that other pioneers were arriving. 3 muscular men entered, led by one with an eye patch and glowing red eyes, who arrogantly declared the resource-rich land was now theirs. Xiao Ya grew worried, her jaw tightening at once, recognizing all 3 newcomers were at the 1-star Ghost Axe realm, a level her team couldn't challenge. Despite the danger, Xiao Ya tried to reason with them, politely stating they had arrived first and even offering to let them join. Her diplomacy was met with contempt. Not even a pause. The eye patch-wearing leader mocked her low level and ordered them to get lost or face the consequences. Xiao Ya's expression hardened. She reflected on the harsh reality of survival of the fittest in this new era, where the weak pioneers don't deserve resources to grow stronger. But as a member of the Sha Nation Association, she couldn't stand by and do nothing. Just as the confrontation was about to escalate, Fang Yi stepped between Xiao Ya and the hostile leader. With his sword ignited, he coldly asked the large man if he had nothing better to do than bully a young woman. The eye patch-wearing leader was left stunned and speechless. Silence fell, sharp as a blade. Without hesitation, Fang Yi unleashed a single devastating swing that created a fiery explosion, sending the 3 aggressors flying. The force of the attack startled Fang Yi's own teammates from their meditation. The echo rattled the entire cave they were in. After giving them a warning attack from his sword, He remembered the tragedies caused by those who followed the survival of the fittest principle, knowing only overwhelming force would work on such people. To make his point, Fang Yi pulled his mighty flaming sword out of the ground and pointed it towards the three thugs. Surrounded by an immense golden aura, he coldly ordered them to scram. His tone left no room for debate. Terrified by this second display of power, the leader called Fang Yi a monster and screamed for his men to run as Fang Yi watched them flee. His teammates rushed over, buzzing with excitement over his incredible power. Their voices overlapped, breathless and bright. Fang Yi smiled, brushing it off and suggesting it was time to leave. No point lingering in this area as the spiritual energy seems depleted now. As they left, Xiao Ya wondered if the attack Fang Yi had landed on the thugs, would there be 3 burned bodies on the ground. Realizing he had held back and convinced he was a top-tier pioneer, she knew she had to report this major discovery to her organization immediately. It couldn't wait. The scene shifts to the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association office, where a woman on the phone with Xiao Ya repeated in surprise that another high-attribute pioneer had appeared. The news felt unreal. The office worker grew flustered, realizing she had said too much, especially with an imposing man standing behind her. His shadow stretched long. She awkwardly hung up after confirming the report. The young woman cheerfully asked her gray-haired superior if they were lucky enough to have 2 high-attribute pioneers in a row. He, however, grimly corrected her that luck had nothing to do with it, explaining that every high-attribute individual is destined to become a new center of power, one that always carries consequences, a responsibility that stressed him immensely, making him want to resign immediately. Under a sunny sky, Fang Yi returned to the city. He tried to disguise himself as a cosplayer, but his powerful presence and authentic sword only drew more attention. People stared at him despite his disguise. His walk was interrupted when he saw on his phone that news of the cave incident had already gone viral. The feeds were flooded. He scolded himself for his carelessness, knowing the eruption of his internal flame was too noticeable. Dismissing the idea that his teammates would betray him, he focused on a more urgent matter. The massive yang energy he had absorbed was pushing him toward a new breakthrough. Just one more cycle of the golden sun breathing technique and he might break through again. He needed to find a secluded place immediately and headed for the back mountain. He moved quickly, light on his feet. 5 minutes later on that same mountain, a silver-haired young woman named Su Qingying, a garden restoration expert, had finally fixed the area. But then she felt a sudden powerful presence. It rolled over her like a wave. She saw an intense burst of light like a miniature sun and recognized the signs of a cultivator breaking through to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. The scale of the energy astounded her. She'd never imagined a breakthrough of that realm could be so monstrous. Truly unprecedented for her. Driven by a sense of duty and curiosity about who the person was breaking through, she raced toward the disturbance, vowing to catch the mysterious individual this time. This time, with no bubble tea craving to distract her, high on the mountain, Fang Yi was focused on his breakthrough. He pulled in huge amounts of golden energy, which spun around him before forming a bright, sun-like ball above his head. As he meditated in the air, the power behind him formed a complex, star-shaped divine shape, his arms moving so quick that it looked like he was the reincarnation of an Asura god. Golden energy sparked across his skin, and his eyes glowed with great power as he tried to control the wild energy. Finally, the power came together, taking the shape of a giant divine axe made of pure golden and light blue energy, crackling with power. Meanwhile, Su Qingying was running to where he was when she saw the amazing sight. She watched in total disbelief, seeing that the mysterious person was about to swing the divine axe he had just created. His level of control was incredible. She wondered how anyone could command so much spiritual energy with such perfect skill and steadiness, asking herself if this man had secretly been training for centuries. The sight brought back a painful memory. Su Qingying remembered her own attempt to break through to the Ghost Axe 2-star level. The pressure from her own divine axe had been too much for her, pushing back and making her cough up blood. It left her stuck in bed for a full week. Even someone like her, who was naturally strong, had still failed badly, making her wonder where such a monster like him came from. She couldn't understand how this monster could handle a breakthrough that was so much more powerful than hers. As she ran closer, she was even more amazed. The huge amount of spiritual energy, the perfect control in every move of the axe, and the way every bit of power seemed to have been purified thousands of times. It was all beyond anything she had ever seen. She decided that this person wasn't just an amazing monster. He was like a god who had come down from the heavens. She also noticed his calm and steady way of doing things. Most pioneers, when they felt a breakthrough was about to happen, would rush to get it done. This person, however, moved with a deep sense of experience and a strong mind, like a master from ancient times. Her thoughts were stopped when the giant, fiery divine axe began to move. She watched the awesome sight as it swung with a purpose, heading to the eastern direction. At the peak of his power, Fang Yi's eyes burned with pure golden light as cracks of raw energy spread across his entire body. He floated inside a blinding storm of golden power, successfully controlling the huge amount of energy he had gathered to evolve. A system window then appeared, officially confirming he had succeeded. He had reached the Ghost Axe Realm 2-star. The new divine axe slammed down into the earth, releasing all of its power in one huge shock wave that tore across the mountain. Su Qingying was caught in the powerful blast and had to hold herself steady against the wave of golden energy. The leftover force cut a huge path through the forest before fading away. But when she looked up, the mysterious man had completely disappeared. Breathing hard from the effort and her frustration, Su Qingying couldn't believe she had missed him again, especially since she had arrived in only 30 seconds. A worrying thought came to her. He must have known that she was tracking him. She worried that if he realizes that she had been tracking him, then her mission to recruit him would be impossible. Just as she was about to give up, she paused. A sudden idea hit her. She looked away from the path of destruction and toward a giant, old tree that was now glowing with a soft, leftover golden light. With a new feeling of certainty, she called out into the woods that seemed empty, calling him Senior, and asking if he was still in the area. From the shadows of the forest, Fang Yi appeared, his hooded body giving off a cool confidence. His glowing red eyes were on Su Qingying. He immediately knew she was the person who had been investigating him for the past few days. Seeing she had been found, Su Qingying stood her ground and properly introduced herself. She said she was the captain of the Firefly Squad, under the Spiritual Practitioners Association of Sha Nation, and also one of the nation's first pioneers. On behalf of the association, she sincerely invited him to join them. She admitted she had been following him for 2 days and hoped her methods hadn't made him think badly of her. As she spoke, Fang Yi stayed quiet, and his face was hard to read under his hood. Su Qingying added that while the public didn't know yet, all the official papers for the association were ready. Inside, however, she was very nervous, choosing her words carefully and worrying if she was bothering him or making the powerful man angry. She knew she had to sound soft and respectful. Her carefully planned speech was cut short by Fang Yi's simple, direct question. "Why should I join?" The direct question surprised her completely. She stuttered for a moment, panicking over what to say. She quickly saw that empty, nice words would be useless against someone so smart. The truth was her only choice. Pulling herself together, she explained what the association was for. She told him that the Sha Nation wanted to gather and unite all the early pioneers to guide them on an organized path and also give them extra protection. She knew that everyone was growing in a chaotic, uncontrolled way, and she knew that joining an association like theirs might seem restricting to someone like him. But she asked him to look at the bigger picture. A great return of spiritual energy was coming, and they would all need to stand together to face the unknown enemies of the future. After listening to her passionate speech, Fang Yi leaned casually against a tree, looking tired and uninterested. He told her plainly that he was not willing to join. He explained that for now, he still couldn't bring himself to fully trust her or the association she represented. Su Qingying was left completely embarrassed and speechless by his direct refusal, her eyes wide with shock. Facing his refusal, Su Qingying grew desperate. She quickly pulled out her identification card from her jacket, holding it up for him to see. She introduced herself again as Su Qingying and mentioned she used to be a well-known athlete before the spiritual energy returned. She begged him to believe her, hoping her public identity would give him a reason to trust her. Fang Yi paused and thought about her words. He touched his chin thoughtfully, saying that he now vaguely remembered her. His mind remembered a framed picture of her celebrating a victory as the runner-up in the Sha Nation's long-distance championship. He realized her natural athletic skill was what made her such a fast and good pioneer. However, his face then became hard. A dark memory from his previous life came to mind, showing a vision of a ruined city. He knew that in his original timeline, the Sha Nation's work, including the association, had failed in the end, and all of humanity became extinct. Now that he had returned with his system, he knew he had to be part of the solution. But joining the association at this point was not the right move. Putting on a more thoughtful look, he looked back at a hopeful Su Qingying and confirmed that he did remember her. He told her he would think about her offer, and before she could answer, he jumped into the air and sped away from the spot. Just as quickly, he reappeared right behind a startled Su Qingying. He gave her a firm condition. She must keep his location a secret from everyone for now. In his mind, he studied her respectful behavior and guessed that the association was careful about upsetting powerful pioneers who weren't with them. He saw this as a weakness he could use. Su Qingying suggested a deal. She explained that the association had detected the energy from his breakthrough and that she had to file a report. She suggested sending a report that was a mix of truth and lies to protect his identity while keeping her bosses happy because the associate had noticed the visible changes after his breakthroughs. After a moment of thought, Fang Yi agreed to her plan. Su Qingying tried to call out to Fang Yi as he agreed to her plan, but in the blink of an eye, he was gone. She ran down the mountain slope after him, but it was no use. Tired and annoyed, she walked alone on a forest path, muttering in frustration about how many times she had failed to catch him, and how he was now trying to avoid her. She sighed, complaining about the tiring work of erasing the powerful energy signs he left behind after every incident. Her thoughts were cut short by a voice in her earpiece, telling her to stop worrying about the hard-to-find pioneer and remember the mission she was on. The voice seriously told her that the anomalous entities had appeared again. Su Qingying froze, her eyes wide with shock as she asked if they were really back. A scary memory flooded her mind, showing her surrounded by a crowd of terrifying wolf-like creatures with bloody mouths and glowing red eyes. She thought to herself that she would never forget those strange, bloody beasts. The story explained what they were: cold, evil, and bloodthirsty monsters. They draw energy from the pollution zones born after the return of spiritual energy. Some turned into twisted monsters that devoured humans. Some could even hide as unnatural disasters, killing without end, dividing territories amongst themselves and eventually creating new pollution zones. If they weren't stopped, their very destructive nature would let them keep eating the human world until nothing was left. A heavy storm suddenly hit the city. The night sky wasn't lit by streetlights, but by constant, violent flashes of lightning. Rain poured down, and red alerts lit up people's phones, warning of the severe thunderstorm and telling everyone to stay inside. Another alert announced that the Yuhuang mountain area was closed because of flooding risks. From their windows, people commented they hadn't seen a storm this bad in years, with some joking that a powerful being might be facing a lightning trial nearby. Hidden in a rainy alley, Fang Yi watched the storm grimly, his red eye glowing. He could feel the huge amount of lightning energy in the air, majesty, awe, and wild fury. Recognizing its wild power, he knew this was no ordinary storm, but another anomaly. With its power focused on a single point, his eyes scanned past the city buildings and locked onto a distant mountain peak that was being hit by lightning again and again. He had found the center of the storm. Without hesitating, Fang Yi raced into the downpour, leaping across rooftops as he sped toward the mountain. When Fang Yi reached the base of Yuhuang Mountain, his system immediately confirmed a pollution zone was detected. Huang Mountain stands at 1,545 meters tall and spans 25,000 hectares. It is one of the city's most prominent tourist attractions. He looked up at the peak, but instead of its usual beauty, he saw a grim scene with skeletal remains scattered among twisted trees. Another system notice added to the danger, stating the pollution level was unknown. Still, Fang Yi moved forward without hesitating, walking into the dark, stormy woods with a determined look as lightning struck him. According to the spiritual energy concentration test, the danger level on Mount Yu Huang is showing a sharp upward trend. Inside the Spiritual Practitioners Association's command center, officials held a tense meeting. A large screen showed a vortex of blue energy over a mountain peak. An official reported that the danger on Mount Yu Huang was rising quickly, so they had to close it off and call it a new contamination zone. The grim-faced association leader said the situation was extremely dangerous and he had to pull Su Qingying from another important mission. He asked her to report on what was happening. Su Qingying told the officials that it was currently impossible to climb the mountain, as the unstable thunder-type energy has reached the explosion threshold. Because of this, the area was officially classified as an A-level contamination zone. She continued with more worrying news. Based on how fast the energy was growing, the mountain would soon be an S-level threat within just 1 hour, cautioning the leaders that the emergency plan must be activated immediately. But she pointed out a major problem. Based on their data, no explorer they had could safely get near the area, admitting that not even she could handle it. A wave of shock went through the room as calculations showed the mission would mean certain death even for highly advanced explorers who were ranked with 3 stars. Facing this impossible situation, a man in a security uniform ordered the foot of Mount Yu Huang to be completely sealed off. With patrols sent out 24/7 to stop anyone from trying to climb it, the association leader firmly agreed. He declared they had to stop the threat by sealing the mountain and that no one could go near it until the energy concentration dropped. When it does drop, they will reassess the situation. While the association thought Mount Yu Huang was too dangerous, Fang Yi was already deep inside the zone. Huge bolts of blue lightning crashed down around him. As the storm raged, Fang Yi stood firm, protected by a golden aura from his breathing technique. He knew, however, that just surviving the storm wasn't enough. To get the purest thunder energy, he had to climb to the center of the storm at the mountain's peak. His decision was fueled by dark memories of the past. He knew that the creatures they faced now were just the beginning, and even more terrifying monsters would appear in the future. He realized that even though he mastered the breathing technique and the flaming sword style, which represent solar and inner fire properties, these weren't enough for what was coming. Previously, he spent his points to embed properties into his sword. The sun property enhanced the sword's durability and defense, while the flaming sword style boosted its destructive attack power. But that was an issue. He had to become stronger himself, not just rely on his weapon. Surrounded by the lightning, Fang Yi saw a rare and perfect opportunity to use the thunder energy to strengthen his own body. Fang Yi knew if he didn't take this chance to get stronger, he would face certain death from the disasters to come. His eyes glowing gold, he drew his flaming sword and, with a defiant roar, plunged it directly into a massive bolt of blue lightning. The wild energy surged through him, causing terrible pain, but his face remained determined. His body shook violently as the electricity coursed through him, causing him to cough blood as he tried his best to hang on. He realized this thunder power was like a divine punishment, actively fighting against him. The storm was furious that he had entered its territory and seemed to demand that he give up. Staring at the chaotic sky, he wondered how he could possibly make such a raw force obey him. Then he had an idea. He calmed himself and remembered his system's rules. To get power, he had to touch the energy source. A golden aura exploded from him as he unleashed his golden sun breathing technique. Determined to fight through the storm with a loud roar, Fang Yi pushed forward, using his flaming sword to cut a path through the storm of blue lightning. The clash of his golden energy against the raw storm created a huge, chaotic explosion. Blood trickled from his mouth from the strain, but his eyes burned with determination. He knew this was a desperate gamble where he had to push himself to his limit, facing death in order to live. Finally, after a hard struggle, he reached the peak. He plunged his sword into the ground, cracking the rock as he arrived at the center of the storm. Here, the power was even more terrifying. A violent flood of thunder energy that made it hard to even breathe. He felt the storm's full attention on him and realized it no longer just wanted to push him away. It wanted to kill him. As if to prove it, the storm gathered its full power and shot a single massive beam of white-hot lightning directly at him. An attack meant to completely destroy him. As Fang Yi faced the storm's final attack, his system activated, detecting a powerful thunder attribute and starting to process it. Far below in the city, people watched from a tall building. Amazed. One man taking a photo had never seen lightning so big. Another wondered if a god was going through a trial, even thinking he saw a person in the sky. At the mountain's peak, the fight ended in a brilliant explosion. Fang Yi had won. A system message confirmed it, announcing he had obtained refined divine thunder power and could now summon heavenly lightning to temper his body in divine fire to become godlike. He was rewarded with 5 writing points. Fang Yi now floated in the air, surrounded by blue lightning and his golden aura. He understood his new power. The thunder attribute was a top-tier force for both attack and defense. Unlike his sun power, which was mostly for defense, the thunder could refine his body and turn it into intense energy. He decided that the thunder was now his spear and his shield. He also realized the power wasn't just about destruction. It was also about purification and rebirth. He could feel the energy strengthening his bones and muscles without any pain. The system then offered him an upgrade to punish evil, which would grant him double critical damage, asking if he wanted to use writing points to get it. Landing softly, Fang Yi thought about what to do next. His first thought was to put this new thunder power into his Tang sword. He considered it carefully. While it would make the blade stronger, he worried it might mess with the purity of the sun attribute already in it. He also knew that putting too many different powers into one item could damage or even destroy it. Suddenly, he had a brilliant idea. Looking at his hand, he decided to do something different. He would implant the thunder attribute directly into his right hand. The system immediately responded, asking if he wanted to put the thunder attribute into the chosen item. A confident smirk appeared on his face as he gave the command. Instantly, all the wild blue lightning in the air rushed into his right hand as he claimed the storm's power for himself. The next day, on the storm-damaged peak of Mount Yu Huang, the immediate danger was gone. Below a cliff, Su Qingying and an army officer named Major Han stood in front of numerous figures. Su Qingying reported that the contamination zone's energy had strangely dropped from its most dangerous level to a mild level in just 3 hours. Though some electricity was still in the air, Major Han listened and immediately figured out what had happened. Someone had been there. It was a seeker, a person who actively looks for these dangerous events. Su Qingying was shocked, wondering if another seeker was involved and if they could have survived. She knelt and looked for clues but couldn't sense anything. Guessing that the heavy rain had washed away any evidence, she concluded that the seeker must have left the mountain safely around 8 p.m. the night before. Major Han Li agreed with her timeline. The strange event began around 6 p.m., and the army sealed the mountain at 7 p.m. So, the seeker must have climbed the mountain before it was closed. He noted that their instruments predicted the danger would reach grade S. But after 8 p.m., the energy suddenly dropped. Standing where the lightning had been strongest, the major added his own theory. He believed the seeker not only survived the lightning but probably had a thunder-related power, turning the disaster into a great opportunity. He concluded this person was the direct cause of the sudden change. The major then shared his biggest worry. People like this were the most dangerous because they didn't know whose side they were on. Su Qingying agreed, adding that if such a powerful person was a threat, the disaster they could cause would be huge. They had to be found quickly. Miles away, sitting on his couch and unaware of the military operation now focused on him, Fang Yi let out a sudden, loud sneeze. Back on the mountain, Major Han Li made his decision. He gave a firm order to his troops. Find this person immediately, at any cost. As his command was given, he assigned the mysterious target his temporary code name, the Tyrant. A godlike being that had absorbed a massive amount of lightning. The investigation on Yu Huang Mountain started right away. The army hoped the Spiritual Practitioners Association could recruit the mysterious person codenamed Tyrant soon. In the meantime, they would keep all information about the event secret and start their own investigation. On the rainy peak, the association leader told Major Han Lee that they already had a high-level pioneer trying to make contact. He then turned to Qin Yang and ordered her to give her report to the major. Qin Yang was caught off guard by the order and gasped in panic. Forced to think fast, she began her half-true report. She connected the current incident to the pioneer who had recently cleared the pollution zone at a local university. Inside, she was panicking, terrified she would say something wrong and reveal her deal with Fang. She explained that she had been trying to contact him, but he was hard to find. She mentioned finding the body of a mutated rabbit he had killed and correctly identified his yang flame attribute from the evidence. She finished by promising to do her best to get close to him and find out how he had cleared the university's gate. She silently prayed for help, hoping that her ancestors would save her as she had already done her best. Mixing truth and lies is the only way to make it believable. Saying nothing would have backfired on her. Major Han Lee listened closely, thinking about what a pioneer with a yang flame attribute meant. He seemed happy with her report and thanked her for her hard work, calling her a talented young pioneer, a type of person they needed. The waves behind pushed the ones ahead. Qin Yang gave a sharp salute and replied that it was her duty and that she would continue to do her best. With the meeting over, Major Han mentioned they would release fake news about natural disasters to hide the event from the public. He also said he disagreed with posting spiritual energy information online where bad people could use it. As the officials talked, Qin Yang quietly sighed, relieved that the tough questioning was finally over. Back at his home, Fang used his golden sun breathing technique to easily dry his white hoodie, making it glow with a warm light before holding it up perfectly clean and dry. After putting it on, he checked the changes in his body. Even after adding the powerful thunder attribute, he could still feel a clear difference. He looked down at his right hand, which now sparked with blue lightning. It had completely changed, undergoing the thunder attribute physical transformation. It's now the strongest part of his body. As he flexed his fingers, making small balls of lightning appear, he could feel that he was once again at the threshold of an upgrade. What surprised him most was how the once wild thunder attribute had become a well-behaved kitten and can be controlled freely. He also compared this to the terrible pain he felt when he unlocked the yang attribute and golden sun breathing technique for the first time. The pain was unforgettable, which made him believe that the energy had gotten weaker after he absorbed it. The system says the thunder attribute deals 300% critical damage to anomalies and evil beings. Knowing this, Fang was excited to try it out soon. His thoughts were broken by a sudden alert from his phone on a nearby table. He picked it up, wondering what was happening now. After the last incident, he set news and forum notifications to special alerts. In these times of great upheaval, Shah country will issue danger warnings immediately to protect civilians. For a pioneer like him, however, these warnings were more than just notices of danger. They were temptations. In every crisis, there was a chance to grow stronger, even if it meant risking his life. As Fang thought about what to do next, he looked at the major news alert on his phone. The report said a huge explosion had just happened inside a chemical plant with 0 casualties. But it has caused a lot of pollution in the city. The blast had occurred during a shift change, so no one was injured. The official story said no one was hurt and told people to stay calm. But Fang was suspicious of an event this big. He checked online forums where people who saw it happen gave a much scarier story. People who lived nearby commented online that there was a super creepy feeling they couldn't explain. One person asked if it was a cold, evil aura, and another quickly agreed. While many were doubtful, the overall feeling was one of dread and fear. The words cold and evil aura felt familiar to Fang. Suddenly, a terrifying memory from his past life came back. A bloody hand and a horrible monster. He remembered hiding in fear from a giant red demonic beast as it destroyed everything around it. The creature, a gross, multi-eyed rat-like monster, was a threat he knew too well. A monster which he could only hide from, never daring to attack it at all. Back in the present, he looked serious. He remembered the nature of these creatures. Those things loved to appear during dark and shadowy hours. Originally, they were plants or animals, but after experiencing the mutation, they gained intelligence. Their powers would go berserk. their perception, hunting and instant kill abilities would be upgraded to horrifying levels. Realizing this new threat was 100 times more dangerous than the mutated rabbit he had fought before, Fang knew he had to do something. Clenching his fist, which sparked with his new blue lightning, he decided he would go out that night to stop these creatures from surviving and getting stronger. Standing up, he was surrounded by blue electrical energy. Unleashing his lightning powers, like Kakashi from Naruto, Fang had unlocked Chidori. It was time. He decided to test his new 300% critical hit ability in a real fight. On a dark and stormy night, rain fell on the empty city streets. As the traffic light changes to green, a blur of motion sped across the wet road. A squad of cloaked figures moving with amazing speed in unison. These were the members of the Destroyer Squad, and they were hunting. One member reported to their headquarters that they were tracking anomaly file number 7, codenamed Candle Knight, but had lost the target for a few moments. The creature's current known ability was to merge with the darkness and hide its form. The squad member added new, scary details to the file. The anomaly emits a faint sizzling sound when it is close and likes to eat humans. With this information, the squad member hopes that headquarters would keep the file updated about the anomaly. Their leader, a determined man with light hair and a scar on his face, knew the stormy weather was perfect for the creature's hunt. He said with grim certainty that they could not let that happen. Miles away, in a busy command center, an operator got the updated information. He confirmed the new data for File 7, Candle Knight, had been submitted. The situation was serious. Red lights were flashing throughout the room. This wasn't a disco. An extermination request had been submitted as Priority B with a goal to solve it in 12 hours. The order came back from headquarters. The Destroyer Squad was to keep chasing the target, but their own safety was most important. The team immediately started the chase again, understanding the command from base, while leaping from building to building through the rainy city. The squad leader paused, looking at a glowing holographic map of the city full of red markers showing active anomalies. He knew that a 12-hour response time wasn't fast, but it was the best headquarters could do. Sha country was vast, and with anomalies appearing everywhere, even their advanced resources were stretched thin, making it hard for headquarters to keep up. Just as the Destroyer Squad got close to their target's last known location, a warning came from their headquarters. The operator told them that the area they were entering was currently occupied by Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association agents. A photo of Chen Yang appeared on the screen as the operator explained that her team was watching pioneers there and could be asked to help. The Destroyer Squad's leader acknowledged the message and asked headquarters to have her come help, saying he had heard of her good work. Soon after hearing that, Chen Yang was surprised to learn she had become so famous. The Destroyer Squad waited grimly in the rain, looking up to where the voice was coming from. Chen Yang and her own cloaked team had arrived, taking a spot on a higher rooftop. With a hand on her hip, she looked down at the squad below and casually asked if they were the ones calling her for overtime. The Destroyer Squad's leader was not happy with her casual tone. He sternly told her that the Candle Knight anomaly eats people and that this was much more serious than a simple overtime request. Chen Yang then turned to leave, annoyed by his remark, which made her say that the Destroyer Squad seemed so good they probably didn't need help after all. She announced that her team, the Ying Squad, would be leaving. As they started to go, her team members muttered among themselves. One worrying about their boss's savage attitude and another defending her, saying their own missions were just as dangerous. The leader of the Destroyer Squad immediately panicked and called for her to wait. He apologized for his harsh tone and begged for her help. He explained just how dangerous Candle Knight was and that without her famous tracking and locating skills, they would be at a great disadvantage. He didn't care if he and the others were eaten by the monster. What worried the leader more was the fact that it would eat all the people in the city if they left it alone tonight. After agreeing to work together, the two teams stood on a rainy rooftop, ready to hunt. Chen Yang concentrated, and a glowing blue ball of energy appeared in her hand. She announced she had found the creature. The orb's energy expanded, showing the monster's location. Hidden in the dark, wet ruins of a chemical plant, the monstrous, multi-eyed, rat-like creature called Candle Knight was eating something. Its file noted that it liked darkness, dampness, and eating people. With the target found, the squad leader gave the command for the joint operation to start. The creature's senses were sharp, and it instantly looked up, aware of their presence. It jumped away just as an attack hit the ground where it had been. A member of the destroyer squad said the target had spotted them and ordered the team to form up in order to deploy the formation. The squad members moved with incredible speed, their cloaks blurring as they chased it. They surrounded the creature from all sides and, with their prey trapped, they shouted together, full encirclement. One of the destroyer squad members leaps into the air right above the monster, shouting the order to attack. Focusing energy into his hand, forming a short but sharp blade. He cuts the monster deep enough for blood to gush out, sending it backwards. But instead of being weaker, the monster's body began to change, its back erupting with red sores and black spikes. With a furious shriek, the enraged Candle Knight fought back, creating a vortex of dark energy. Qin Yang desperately shouted for the teams to watch out for the sound wave and dodge. Her warning was a moment too late. A powerful sonic blast erupted from the creature, sending the squad members flying back. The destroyer squad's leader managed to dodge at the last second, landing onto a nearby rooftop, eyes focused on the monster. One of his team members rushed to his side from below, asking if he was okay. The leader pushed himself up, bruised but alive. He admitted that if he hadn't moved back at the last second, his bones would have been broken. He knew they were in grave danger. If the creature stayed in the city any longer, it would cause a huge disaster. The battle took another turn as Candle Knight continued to change. It grew large, bat-like wings and let out a roar, its throat glowing with green energy. It then spewed a corrosive dark substance that filled the air with toxic green smoke. The creature aimed this blast at the ground, trying to melt the street to burrow underground and escape. One of Qin Yang's team members warned her that the monster had a corrosive dark power and that anything it touched would be destroyed. She explained that their team didn't have a high-tiered counter-attribute power strong enough to fight it. Qin Yang, however, stayed calm. She ordered her team to stay alert and not mess up the destroyer squad's formation, reminding them their main job was to gather information and assist with tactical adjustments. Meanwhile, a destroyer squad member with a dagger prepared to strike the escaping creature. Suddenly, a pair of menacing red eyes glowed from the darkness. The winged Candle Knight lunged forward, narrowly dodging an attack from a leaping squad member, and easily flings him into the air. Enraged, the destroyer squad leader yelled at his team not to let the monster escape and chase after it. The winged creature flew through the city streets, chased by the cloaked members of the Ying squad. From a high rooftop, Qin Yang and two of her team members watched. Suddenly, she sensed a sharp increase in spiritual energy concentration from the creature's direction. Realizing something important was about to happen, she ordered her team to stay outside while she followed it in by herself. The chase led them to a large, dark, abandoned factory. Inside, Qin Yang said she would scan the area's spiritual energy concentration first. The destroyer squad's leader noticed the advanced watch on her wrist. She confirmed it was a new auxiliary device developed by the association. She explains that the watch showed the anomaly energy threshold an average squad can handle is 50. Candle Knight's reading had been just 48. Suddenly, the device on her wrist began to flash wildly, the reading shooting straight to 80 and still increasing. Qin Yang shouted that the energy levels were going crazy, and that there was more than one anomaly here in the factory. At that moment, a massive shadowy form with glowing green eyes appeared in the rafters above. The entrance to the factory was sealed tight in an instant. They had been led into a trap. Qin Yang realized with horror that there was more than one creature in the factory. The Candle Knight had lured them into this place on purpose. The shadowy monstrous face of a new creature loomed behind them. The destroyer squad's leader panicked, yelling that they needed to retreat immediately. Taking charge, Qin Yang suggested a tactical retreat toward the main door to force the hidden enemy to show itself. She fired a blast of energy to clear a path, shouting for her team to follow. But before they could escape, she cried out in pain and collapsed, her senses overwhelmed by an invisible poison gas. Qin Yang suddenly found herself alone in the vast green darkness of the factory. She called out to her team, but no one answered. She knew they were nearby, but the poison had made them unable to sense or answer her. Putting the pieces together, she realized the full trap. Candle Knight had led them to this factory, which was the territory of a much more powerful creature. A giant serpent she had only faintly sensed earlier. As if summoned by her thoughts, the huge, armored head of a shadowy serpent with glowing green eyes loomed over her. She now understood that unlike Candle Knight's simple dark power, this creature's black mist was a strong poison, and they had been poisoned the moment they entered the factory. The gas paralyzes their senses and rapidly drains their spiritual energy. If they were to use spiritual power to attack, they would only wear themselves out faster. In the end, fighting back would only use up their power faster. Without energy to protect herself from the gas and poison, Qin Yang would soon become a corpse. As she collapsed to the floor, her strength gone, she despaired at the terrifying intelligence of a creature that was just playing with them. She closed her eyes, wondering if this was the end. Lying defeated on the factory floor, Qin Yang saw a single ray of light cut through the green darkness above. A flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. Suddenly, the factory ceiling exploded inward and a blinding light filled the room. Her eyes widened as a figure came down from the blast. It was Fang. He landed gracefully in the rubble, his hooded figure standing out against the glowing hole in the ceiling. He stood before the giant serpent, immediately identifying it as a dark attribute creature. Without warning, the serpent lunged, its massive fangs aimed at him. At the same time, the Candle Knight monster burst from the shadows, attacking from behind. Fang dodged the serpent's attack and came face to face with the growling, rat-like beast. As the two creatures closed in, he finally understood the full trap he had walked into. In a shocking move, Fang let the Candle Knight monster bite his shoulder. As blood splattered, he noted their surprisingly smart tactics. One creature for luring prey, the other for killing them. No wonder the spiritual energy here felt unnaturally thick to him. He taunted the rat monster latched onto him, asking if it enjoyed biting people so much. In response, he unleashed his new power. Bright blue lightning erupted from his body as he challenged the monster to taste the power of his thunder property. At the same time, he fired a massive beam of golden solar energy from his free hand, which hit the lunging serpent head-on. Now covered in crackling electricity and free from the stunned rat creature, Fang turned his full attention to the serpent, whipping out his Yang sword. He covers it in Yang energy, pointing it at the serpent, telling the snake that it was his next victim. The giant serpent lunged with a furious roar, its huge mouth opening to devour its prey. With amazing agility, Fang dodged the attack, flipping through the air while swinging his glowing golden sword. As he landed, he coolly told the monster to look at his blade, a clear challenge to the giant beast. The serpent seemed to pull back, cautious of the radiant weapon. Seeing his chance, Fang counterattacked. Leaping through the air, he delivered a powerful slash to the serpent's face, his sword wrapped in the crackling blue energy of his thunder power. The force of the blow was huge, but the result wasn't what he expected. Even though its head was completely sliced into two pieces, the snake was still alive, reattaching its divided head with ease. Fang landed on his feet, eyes wide with surprise at this strange development. The creature's split head then pulled apart completely, shedding its outer layer to reveal its true, healed form. As expected, Fang knew that the snake monster would have a follow-up move. The serpent reacted with shock and pain as the leftover thunder energy from Fang's sword ran through its body. It roared in fury as the electrical surge grew stronger, overwhelming its dark power. Watching the creature twist in pain, Fang gave a small, confident smirk. He knew he had the advantage, as he had already sensed this serpent's dark aura was denser than Candle Knight's. He then revealed his clever plan. Just now, while wielding the Tang sword and unleashing the power of internal flame, he controlled the force and retracted it. Using the sword as a carrier, he condensed and channeled the thunderbolt power in his hand into the snake's body instead. An easy barbecue for the main character. As a dark-type anomaly, Candle Knight may be eerie and sneaky, but its power was relatively weak. It was bloodthirsty, but at most it could only harm one or two humans, not having truly evolved yet. But the snake was a different story. While watching the snake burn to ashes, Fang felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where the snake had bitten him in their clash. He grunts in pain, looking down to see strange purple snake scales growing from the wound on his shoulder. He understood immediately, just as he'd thought. This was a cunning mutated species. Its intelligence has even improved. These sneak attacks from their fight early were deadly. Its poison carries a built-in paralyzing effect. It kills silently without a trace. He could feel the stab of pain from the wound, but he could see that the yang flame he used on his shoulder was healing and getting rid of the poison. With a determined look, he knew he had the perfect counter. The yang flame power could dissolve the poison. The golden sun technique would protect and heal his body, and the thunder power would purify anything left. As the energy from his powers pulsed through him, Fang recognized the benefit of his combined abilities. The mix of his yang flame and thunder powers now gave him a clear pain signal to any poison, acting as an early warning system. He knew he was lucky. For others, the serpent's sneaky poison would have been impossible to cure. He guessed that for the serpent to have grown so large, it must have relied on surprise attacks since it was probably at the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. He thought of the monster's den, filled with the skulls of its victims. With Candle Knight acting as the perfect bait, the two creatures had become a deadly trap even for top pioneers, which explained why so many had disappeared. But in the end, it didn't matter. As he watched the creature's huge skeleton burn to ash in his holy fire, he knew its reign of terror was over. Standing before the fire, Fang felt satisfied. His inner flame was powerful, but the triple critical hit from his new thunder power had sealed his victory. He felt confident that his fighting skills were now pretty good, even compared to other high-level pioneers. He stood silently for a moment, watching the flames burn the last of the monster. Just as he was about to reach into the fire, he paused. His eyes narrowed. Darting and looking around. He wasn't alone. Someone was still there. He turned just in time to see a figure stumbling out from the smoke, coughing from the ash. It was Qin Yang. She stood silently, covered in soot and clearly tired, but she was alive. As the smoke cleared, Fang found himself looking at the unconscious members of the other squad with Qin Yang sitting among them. He recognized her as the agent from the association and coolly told her there was no need to pretend. He added that her playing dead act needed work, which surprised her. Embarrassed, Qin Yang covered her face. Realizing this was the same powerful pioneer she had been tracking, she tried to make an excuse, claiming she woke up from the smell and wasn't faking. Fang, however, wasn't fooled. He complimented her, pointing out that while her teammates were out of energy, she was strong enough to keep a small reserve to protect herself. If she had really been unconscious, he explained, she wouldn't have been able to smell anything. Flustered, Qin Yang could only offer an awkward thank you for his compliment of her skills. In her mind, she was amazed. He had seen right through her. She had indeed kept a bit of spiritual energy for protection. But she had no idea how he had beaten both Candle Knight and the giant serpent all by himself. Noticing her embarrassment, Fang's tone softened. He told her she didn't need to cover her eyes and that he only asked her to be honest with him and keep his identity secret. Seeing she and her team were safe, he said it was getting late and he would be leaving. Qin Yang tried to call out to him, but it was too late, saying that explaining things would spoil the surprise. He jumped effortlessly through the hole he had made in the factory ceiling and disappeared into the night. As he traveled across the rooftops, Fang thought about the battle. He was glad Qin Yang didn't see him try and absorb the dark attribute just now. That discomfort and eerie coldness Fang felt from the attribute was simply disgusting. He wondered why he couldn't absorb it himself. He guessed maybe the dark energy was already gone, or his body had instinctively rejected it. Even the system didn't respond to it either. He decided to think about it later at home. Left alone in the huge, abandoned factory, Qin Yang looked up at the moonlit hole in the ceiling where Fang had disappeared. She sighed, disappointed that she hadn't gotten a good look at his face and realizing he still didn't trust her or the association. Her quiet moment was short. Acting like a squad leader again, she walked over to the unconscious captain of the destroyer squad and gave him a few slaps on his face, telling him to wake up. The man groaned and slowly opened his eyes, bruised and confused. His first thought was panic, and he shot up, shouting that they had been ambushed. Qin Yang just watched him with a calm look. The leader and his squad members then saw why she was so calm: the massive, smoking skeleton of the giant serpent. They stared in total disbelief. Confused by the scene, the leader demanded to know what happened and where the powerful yang energy came from. Qin Yang calmly explained that a powerful pioneer had rescued them. She continued her carefully planned report, stating that the pioneer was likely the person from her original mission, a very high-level individual with a yang attribute. She let her voice trail off, suggesting his appearance was a lucky coincidence. The other squad members were in complete awe, with one saying it was unbelievable that one person could defeat both monsters. Qin Yang added that she hadn't managed to recruit him yet and that he had even managed to track her back, which only made him more mysterious. Getting back to their grim job, the destroyer squad leader asked where Candle Knight's body was, as he began using a green energy technique to clean the scene. He said they needed to collect the remains for the association. As the squads began the cleanup, the destroyer squad's leader used a green orb of energy to gather the strange, dark remains left from the battle. As he stepped forward, he accidentally crushed a piece of debris on the floor, which suddenly exploded in a blast of bright blue electrical energy. He jumped back in pain, yelling at the force of the shock as Qin Yang looked on in surprise. This new discovery only made things more mysterious. The remains, which they now realized belonged to Candle Knight, were crackling with leftover electricity. The squad leader turned to Qin Yang, questioning her report. He reminded her she had said the pioneer had a yang attribute, yet this incredibly strong electrical power told a different story. The two leaders knelt to look at the electrically charged body. Qin Yang was stunned by the pure strength of the thunder power left behind, confirming it was a high-tier power. This led the destroyer squad's leader to a new idea. Maybe two high-level pioneers had appeared, one to kill the serpent and another to kill Candle Knight before leaving together. Qin Yang knew that wasn't right. She struggled with how to explain the unbelievable truth. Remembering the image of the lone pioneer holding both crackling blue lightning and roaring golden fire, she knew no one would believe that a single person could have two different top-level powers. Having just one made you a genius. Having two was almost unheard of. The impossible proof was right in front of them. The burning skeleton of the giant serpent was the work of a yang flamewalker, while the electrified body of Candle Knight was the clear mark of a thunder tyrant. The combined squads could only look on in complete disbelief, wondering what kind of freak the mysterious pioneer really was. As reinforcements from the association arrived, Qin Yang was glad she had left team members outside. If she had been inside too long without checking in, they would have reported her missing. She grimly realized the rescue team now at the scene had originally been sent to collect their bodies. Her two subordinates, who were knocked out by the serpent's poison, finally woke up. They scrambled to her side, crying with relief that their captain was still alive. With the threat gone, the association's team began their work. Their job had changed from a rescue to a forensic investigation. Using advanced scanning tech, they carefully analyzed the leftover spiritual energy and the battle signs, trying to piece together what happened for their report back to headquarters. Every reading mattered, every tiny signature a clue, and the room smelled faintly of ozone and ash. Soon, one of the specialists approached Qin Yang and the destroyer squad's leader with his findings. He reported that, after comparing all the data, from fighting habits to the way both monsters were killed, there was a 99% probability that one person was responsible for killing both of them. The two squad leaders couldn't believe it, their faces showing both shock and serious concern. She steadied her breath, forcing herself to stay composed despite the news. The other squad members murmured to each other in disbelief. They were processing the fact that they had been saved by a pioneer with two different high-tier powers, something they never thought was possible. They knew either monster could have easily killed them all. Yet this powerhouse had finished them both off, seeming to use single strikes. Even though they were all in the Ghost Axe realm, the power difference between them was off the chain. Understanding the huge importance of this discovery, Qin Yang contacted her superior. She reported that the information on her target had been significantly updated. Looking up at the hole in the ceiling, she confirmed that the mysterious pioneer from the university and the powerful individual codenamed Tyrant were, in fact, the same person. Back in his office, the association superior listened calmly to her report. After thinking about the information, he gave a new command, telling Qin Yang to pause her mission for now. He explained that the pioneer had saved her team, killed the monsters, and secured the area. These were not the actions of an enemy. He added that he and Old Han, Major Han Li, didn't agree on the matter, and for her own safety and to avoid leaving a bad impression on their powerful potential ally, she was to stop all contact with the tyrant for the time being. While on the phone with her boss, Qin Yang, though she had agreed to pause her mission, couldn't help but add one more piece of information. She told him she had one more theory based on what happened when she had tracked Tyrant to the back mountain where he was advancing his power. Her boss, interested, asked her to explain. She explained that during that encounter, she had sensed an incredibly strong aura in the area where he was active. At the time, she suspected he might have a spiritual weapon but thought it was unlikely. However, now that it was confirmed he had 2 high-tier powers, the possibility seemed much more real. The association superior was surprised by this new information, questioning if the pioneer really had a spiritual weapon. He quickly became skeptical, leaning back and saying it was highly unlikely. He argued that, no matter how talented, a solo pioneer couldn't possibly have such a rare item without outside help. Furthermore, he added, the team had found no traces of a third spiritual energy, which would usually come from a separately made spiritual weapon. Qin Yang quickly corrected him, clarifying an important detail. The spiritual weapon aura she had sensed during her first encounter with him was clearly a Yang attribute. This new information completely changed things. The superior's eyes widened as he understood what this meant. If the weapon's attribute came directly from the user's own Yang energy, it meant he wasn't just using a weapon, he was creating it. This led to an amazing conclusion. If he could create his own spiritual weapons, then he had to be a spirit creation realm cultivator. Such a being could theoretically do this alone, but that level of power was almost mythical. Qin Yang was overwhelmed by this idea, knowing that cultivators at that level were extremely rare, with barely more than 2 in the entire world. The superior then thought of an even more terrifying possibility. If this person did have a third separate attribute, it would shift the balance of power and shake the entire pioneer community. He explained that, according to all known research, different attributes within the human body makes it nearly impossible for them to exist together. So far, no pioneer had ever been confirmed to have 3 different spiritual attributes. Therefore, if the pioneer truly had a spiritual weapon, the fact that they didn't detect a third energy signature from it might actually be a good thing. As the call ended, the superior was left with a single worrying thought. He could only hope that such a powerful pioneer would never become an enemy of humanity. The thought lingered like a heavy shadow over the quiet office. Back at his apartment, Fang stood thoughtfully under a hot shower, washing away the dirt and tiredness from his recent battle. As he dried off, he thought about the current state of the world. He knew there was less than a year until the official spiritual energy revival, but dangerous monsters and strange events were already happening more and more often. He used his Yang attribute to easily dry his clothes, his hand glowing with golden energy. As he thought about how many pioneers like himself had already started cultivating on their own, he thought back to the aggressive men he had met at the underground river. Realizing that once the connection between the body and the spiritual world was opened, people naturally became more sensitive to changes in heaven and earth. Even without Sha country's recognition, self-trained pioneers have generally reached the level of 1-star ghost penetration realm. The fact that the government, through agents like Qin Yang, was now reaching out to wild pioneers like him showed that both sides were in a relatively peaceful phase of mutual exploration. Standing in his room thinking about Major Han Li and Qin Yang, he concluded that for now the monsters were still under control, and there was no serious conflict yet among the different pioneer groups. However, as he finished getting dressed, he knew this peace was fragile. The government had already created the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, but it still hadn't told the public about it. He understood their strategy perfectly. While people were talking more about local problems and strange events, the government was walking a fine line, trying both to protect humanity and to give subtle early warnings without causing mass panic. Despite his recent victories, Fang's analysis of the world situation was still grim. He knew the problem was the government's lack of confidence to officially start a full-scale cultivation era. With such a huge population, he understood that once the full truth was revealed, society would likely collapse into chaos and death. In the current state, even official pioneers couldn't stop the inevitable chaos, and the mix of internal problems and external threats from monsters would only make things worse. He admitted that the government's gentle, careful approach wasn't wrong, knowing that human fear and panic could be more destructive than any monster. However, what truly worried him was how fast the monsters were developing, which was far exceeding his expectations. He reviewed the information on the creatures he had just fought. They were a typical mutated product of dark attribute contamination. From touching the black mist, he could tell it belonged to a subbranch of the dark attribute, known as the shadow attribute, a natural enemy to pioneers. However, these anomalies are far more intelligent than typical exotic beasts. They not only feast on humans, but pioneer bodies are a great nutritional source for them. The monsters even form teams, joining one another to cooperate, trap and kill pioneers like Fang. He knew, however, that these creatures were still much weaker than the true dark-type monsters he remembered from his previous life, monsters that could destroy entire countries on their own. Still, the close call was a serious reminder of the growing danger. He was certain that if he hadn't been there, Qin Yang and her entire squad would have been wiped out. A bit of hope sparked inside him as he thought about the system's wording. The fact that the dark attribute was only temporarily non-absorbable suggested that, once certain conditions were met, he might be able to use its power himself, a possibility that could be key to winning in the future. He reviewed his current abilities. He now possessed the golden sun breathing technique of the Yang attribute, the divine thunder tempering of the thunder attribute, and the crimson flame blade technique, a sub-attribute of Yang, inner flame. With these perfectly suited, high-tier techniques and his current strength as a 3-star Ghost Axe Realm pioneer, he knew very few could match him. Yet, as he stood surrounded by his own great power, he knew with absolute certainty that it was still not enough. His thoughts were suddenly interrupted by his phone ringing. He picked it up, surprised to see a call from his auntie. On the other end of the line, his aunt asked about his health before explaining the real reason for her call. She told him that his cousin was coming to study in the city and, worried for her safety, asked if she could stay at his place for a few days instead of a hotel. Fang was taken aback, his memory of his cousin extremely fuzzy. All he could recall was a quiet, straight-A student who was obsessed with her studies. He couldn't even remember what she looked like. Despite this, he agreed, telling his aunt that there was a spare room. When he asked when she would be arriving, his aunt simply replied that she would give the cousin his address and let her come over by herself. Elsewhere, in a dark room lit only by a computer monitor, a person with long, almost claw-like fingers typed quickly on a keyboard. The person, wearing a big hoodie with bare ears, was looking at a forum page while Fang was on a phone call with her mother. Her mother, who was Fang's aunt, told her that she should arrive at her cousin's place by tomorrow afternoon and that she would bring some specialty snacks. Fang politely ended the call, saying it was no trouble and that he had something else to do. On her screen was a chat window for a group called Spiritual Energy Revival Martial Arts Vanguard Team. The user Fun Hu had just announced her arrival in the city and her plans to stay at her cousin's place. She then clicked her mouse, pulling up a new window. It was a rumor alert about an internet-famous town now nicknamed Death Town, where 3 more people had vanished in relation to a pork beast challenge. A gruesome, blood-splattered image of the town was with the article. With glowing glasses reflecting the screen, Fan Hu identified the location as Yanghuo Town. Her interest clearly sparked. Her browsing was interrupted when her mother entered the room, asking if she had finished packing. Fan Hu told her mother that she was packed but that she'd rather stay in a hotel than bother her cousin. Her mother insisted, saying it was much safer than staying alone and that she trusted the cousin completely. Gently pushing her out of her room, her mother gave her some final advice: be sure not to cause trouble and help out around the house when she could. Fan Hu reassured her mother that she understood. Once the door was closed, Fan Hu let out a small sigh, preparing herself for the visit. She thought of it as just one more hurdle to overcome. Adjusting her glasses with a flash of determination, she resolved that, no matter what her cousin was like, he couldn't possibly be more difficult to handle than a monster. The next day, under a bright blue sky, a young woman with long, dark hair and glasses pulled a suitcase toward an apartment building. She checked her phone, confirming that the map had led her to the correct destination. Looking up at the building, she murmured to herself that this must be the place, ready to finally meet the cousin she barely remembered. As Lin Yi stood outside the apartment building, Fang came out carrying a bag. She called out, asking if he was her cousin. He stopped, surprised, and asked if she was Lin Yi to confirm, though he admitted to himself that he didn't recognize her at all. An awkward silence hung between them for a moment. Later, inside the apartment, they sat on the couch making polite conversation. Fang asked if she was in the city for a summer camp, which she confirmed. He told her to let him know if she needed anything, and she thanked him. After their brief chat, he gave her the key to her room, which was across from his, before going to his own room. As she watched him leave, she felt relieved, thinking her cousin seemed easy to get along with and wouldn't get in her business. However, Fang was not clueless. From the moment she sat down, he had sensed a faint but strange spiritual aura from her. He wondered if his senses were off or if she just wasn't good enough to hide her power. He immediately suspected that she was also a pioneer. The aura he felt was faint but clear, and he realized her story about a summer camp was probably a cover for her real reason for being in the city. Meanwhile, in her room, Lin Yi was on her phone, confirming Fang's suspicions. She messaged her pioneer group, the martial arts vanguard team, saying her cousin seemed nice and wouldn't interfere. The chat turned to recent events, with members talking about the powerful pioneer at the lava river. Lin Yi warned her team to be careful, as many powerful people were still hiding. After agreeing to wait for her signal, she logged off. She decided it was best not to do any cultivation for now, worried her cousin might discover her secret. 3 days passed. Fang soon found that living with his cousin was making his cultivation difficult. His meditations could be interrupted at any time, like when she came out of the bathroom wrapped only in a towel. He also worried that the bright golden aura from his breathing technique was too obvious and would be impossible to hide. He never noticed how flashy and bright it was till now. But the hardest part was her overwhelming kindness. One evening, she proudly gave him a delicious-looking dinner she had made. He tried to insist on doing the dishes, but she refused, saying it was the least she could do. He found her perfect politeness and extreme cleanliness almost strange. Despite the trouble, Fang decided to go along with it. He thought that by letting her be overly helpful, he might get her to let her guard down. He knew this was the only way he could find out what she was really up to. Their quiet dinner was interrupted when her phone on the table began to vibrate. Both cousins glanced at the message, their expressions surprised for a moment. Fang used the chance to excuse himself, saying he would go back to his room while she chatted. His cousin could only quietly reply as he left. Left alone, she stared thoughtfully after him for a moment before turning to her phone. Sitting on her bed, she took the call, her expression turning serious. She repeated the information she was getting, confirming that the great change of heaven and earth would happen again the next day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and she promised she would be there. Fang easily overheard his cousin's phone conversation. She agreed to meet at the entrance of Yanghuo town. He recognized the name as an internet-famous town in the suburbs about an hour's drive away. With his suspicions confirmed, he watched her through the wall, his own spiritual energy flaring. He was now certain his cousin was also a pioneer. He was confident, however, that with her current strength, she wouldn't be able to sense him spying. He was impressed by her power. She was still just a middle school student, but she had already reached the 2-star Ghost Axe realm and was close to another breakthrough. He wondered if her high natural talent was the reason for her somewhat strange personality. He now understood her real purpose in the city. The summer camp was just an excuse. She had learned about the coming great change of heaven and earth and had come to be at the center of it. He knew that every one of these great changes was a chance to get a new technique to increase his own strength. He wondered what kind of power would appear this time. In the end, it didn't matter. With a determined look, he decided that whatever power appeared, he would take it for himself. In her room, his cousin suddenly paused, feeling a strange sensation. She looked around, wondering if it was just her imagination or if someone had been watching her. Seeing nothing but the moonlit mountains outside, she dismissed the feeling and continued her preparations. The next day, the town of Yanghuo was buzzing with activity, with its mountains in the background. At the town's entrance, Lin Yi met a friend from her pioneer group. The friend playfully teased Yi about her cousin, asking if he was handsome. Yi replied that he was a good person, but just an ordinary-looking guy. Her friend sighed in disappointment. Just then, another woman from their group arrived, a redhead in a purple dress. She reminded the first friend that Yi herself had always said she was just an ordinary person. With the rest of their team there, a man sitting nearby with two other team members announced it was time to get to business. Lin Yi asked if certain she was not coming. The man responded that it would just be the six of them this time, and that she wasn't coming along. The red-haired grandma assures the young lady that the missing person has always been mysterious, and that it was normal for her not to come. The team was used to it. Unknown to them, Fang was watching from a nearby cafe balcony, his sword beside him. He noted that his cousin's little squad seemed to be pretty low-key. From where he was, he could sense their strength. The weakest was at the 2-star Ghost Axe level, and the man who had spoken was even a 3-star. He also overheard them say their team was usually stronger, with one powerful member often absent. As he sat watching, his attention was drawn to the mountains overlooking the town. His eyes narrowed with anticipation, sensing this was where the real event was about to happen. High in the mountains, the great change of heaven and earth finally happened. A giant green vine came down from the clouds, looking like the beanstalk from the fairy tale, Jack and the Beanstalk. This huge vine would appear randomly and wasn't destructive, but for pioneers, it was an important key to understanding the changes in their world. Deep in the misty mountains, Lin Yi and her squad finally saw the incredible sight. The red-haired leader looked up in awe, confirming this was what they were looking for. The group stood in disbelief before the massive, pulsing vine, green energy spilling everywhere. However, the awe quickly turned to fear. The group's adventurous friend suddenly grew pale and urged the others to stop, saying they shouldn't go any further. She was trembling with dread. She explained that seeing the vine in person gave her a terrible feeling. Her body started to feel cold. She then asked if they had seen the rumors on their internal pioneer forums. The friend's fear came from a dark story. She said she knew some of the pioneers from a team that had tried to touch the vine the last time it appeared. They were powerful, much stronger than she was. Yet, they all met a horrible end. She explained that after they came here, they were all buried, their skeletons now twisted within the roots of a dark version of the vine. Overcome with terror, she clutched her head in panic. She confessed she had a feeling they would all suffer the same fate if they continued on with their journey. Not even their bones would be left to bury as the scene changes to the group standing on water that looks like blood.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the Voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.